We're pleased to be joined this morning by Frances Arthur, and she is the State Executive Committeewoman, and this is 16th District. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Why
having me
I
here.
had trouble with 16th.
Well, I have trouble remembering all 7 counties, so I've learned to say them in alphabetical order.
It's a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we are going to talk about an amendment that you're passionate about. So
Yes.
let's.
Okay.
This is Amendment 1
Yes.
concerning abortion issues in Tennessee.
Yes, it is.
Why don't you just go ahead and talk about it?
Okay. Well, there are going to be 4 constitutional amendments on the ballot when the voters go in November to cast their votes. Amendment 1 is a pro-life amendment, and it started back in 2000 when a radical Supreme Court ruling was handed down by our state Supreme Court. All of these constitutional amendments are at the state level. And 4 of the 5 Supreme Court justices were able to find in our state constitution a fundamental right to an abortion. I don't think that's there. I teach government and politics to high school students across the state, and I've read the state constitution, and I can't find that in there, but that's how they ruled. And so it's taken us 14 years to get it through the amendment process and get this on the ballot. It will return the rights to the people and take it away from the courts so that we can establish laws again in Tennessee regarding the issue of abortion.
So what specifically will the amendment say?
Okay, the language in the amendment says nothing in this Constitution secures or protects a right to abortion or requires the funding of an abortion, but the people retain the right through their elected state representatives and state senators to enact, amend, or repeal statutes regarding abortion, including, but not limited to, circumstances of pregnancy resulting from rape or incest, or when necessary to save the life of the mother. Did you get all that? It's very confusing, isn't it?
Yes.
It
As
is.
are
And
most of the laws on the books.
That's right. That's right.
Not only the state of Tennessee, but federal laws as well.
They absolutely are. And this is why we're working so hard right now to educate the voters on this issue and what this amendment says. We've all stood in long lines at the voting booths and waited for our turn. If we're trying to reach out to people now, so they'll just know what this amendment says and know what's behind it so that they can go in and easily cast their yes vote on Amendment 1 and won't have to wait so long.
Do we have an idea of how many abortions are performed annually?
In Tennessee, in the last year that we have the health department statistics for was 2011, and we believe that number to be well over 16,000. And by contrast, the 8 states that surround Tennessee perform between 2,000 and 4,000 a year each. So Tennessee has become the abortion destination state in the southeast. Women come here because our laws are so lax in this area and so broad that we have abortion on demand in Tennessee. You can come here and have an abortion at any time for any reason, and it's perfectly legal. The only 2 restrictions that we really have in place that would prevent that are parental consent. A girl who's not reached the age of majority yet has to have one parent to consent to the abortion, and the other one is we have a ban on partial birth abortion in Tennessee, so that's illegal. Other than that, it's abortion on demand.
Okay. Why is a constitutional amendment to our state constitution necessary right now?
Because of the radical Supreme Court ruling in 2000. When they found that fundamental right in our state constitution, it stripped away the laws that we had already in place, some since the early 1970s. We had an informed consent law. We had a waiting period, a very short waiting period law that would require a woman to be informed and then have to wait before she could receive the abortion. Also, health departments were required, the state health department was required to inspect abortion clinics in Tennessee. And we also had the regulation that 2nd and 3rd trimester abortions had to be performed in hospitals and not freestanding clinics. It's a surgical procedure. So it needed to be performed in a hospital where the woman could have access to the best care. Since those laws were removed, thanks to the fundamental right in our Constitution, women do come here to receive abortions on demand from other states.
So this amendment, Amendment 1, will it's not a ban?
No, it's not. This will not ban abortion because of the Roe v. Wade law or Supreme Court ruling in 1973. Abortion will always be legal unless that rule is overturned. But in Tennessee, even if Roe v. Wade was overturned at the federal level, the laws are so broad. In Tennessee, we would still have access to abortion in this state because of the one Supreme Court ruling in 2000.
This is just to put back in place those.
It's to restore the Constitution and return the rights to the people from the courts, and to protect the Constitution and protect women and the unborn in Tennessee.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How does the amendment process work?
That's a long story. That's fun. Well, like I said, it started in 2000 whenever we had the Supreme Court ruling. And so we knew, Justice Mickey Barker told us in his one dissenting opinion that we needed to pass a constitutional amendment to change this ruling. And so we wrote the amendment, and it had to go through several processes and steps along the way, meetings with both sides of the aisle on that, and both sides of the argument, honestly, because this is not a partisan issue. This is a moral issue. Once we got the amendment language locked in, then it has to go into one of the General Assemblies, and it has to be voted on by a 50% plus one vote in each one of the two chambers in the Tennessee legislature. After an election, so that we have new legislators in place, then it has to be passed by 2/3 of the vote in the General Assembly. Then it can go on the next ballot where there's a gubernatorial election and a general election. So the first one of those votes, the 50% plus one, was in 2009. The second one was in 2011, where it passed by 2/3 majority. And the next gubernatorial election is in November of 2014. So that's why we'll see it this fall.
Okay. If you would, please, we need to maybe go over that last bit again about how the amendment process works, if you don't mind.
Okay. It's outlined in Article 11, Section 3 of our state constitution, how the Constitution has to be amended. And so whenever an amendment is presented by a legislator, it has to have a bill sponsor in both the House and the Senate. Then the state General Assembly in both chambers, they have to vote on that amendment language, and it has to pass by a simple majority, 50% plus one of the members in the House and then in the Senate. And then it's held on the desk for 2 years until a new General Assembly has been elected. And we re-elect our state legislators every 2 years, and then our state senators are every 4 years. But and half of the state senators are elected every 2 years. So technically, you have a new General Assembly in place after 2 years. So then the amendment would be voted on again. Nothing in the language can change at that point. It has to be passed at 2/3 majority with the same language. Once that happens, then the amendment will appear on the next gubernatorial ballot in the general election, which we hold in November for state and federal offices. And since this amendment passed at the second reading in 2011, we had already had a gubernatorial election in 2010, so the next one was 2014. And since it was the first amendment to pass through that process, it will be Amendment 1 on our state constitution.
Okay, so we look for that on the November ballot.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's Amendment 1.
Amendment 1. There will be 3 others.
All right. Now, what happens if the amendment fails?
The amendment fails, the Tennessee legislature will never take this issue up again. In the mindset of politicians, they believe that the people in their wisdom have spoken after an election. So this issue won't be dealt with again. We'll continue to have abortion on demand in Tennessee. We'll continue to have no informed consent laws for women so that they can find out what's going to happen to them, during their abortion and afterward in their post-operative care. We'll continue to have no waiting periods, and we'll continue to be the abortion destination state in the Southeast. Earlier I told you that 16,000 abortions were performed in Tennessee in 2011. 24.5% of those are from women out of state who come here to have an abortion performed. And that's because those in the states in which they live, they do have informed consent laws and waiting periods and health department requirements and regulations on second and third trimester abortions, all the laws that Tennessee does not currently have in place. So it's legal to abort a baby at any stage in the pregnancy in Tennessee, whereas a woman who is further along in another state couldn't receive an abortion there after a certain point. So they come here to have these abortions done.
Okay. So what if the amendment passes?
If the amendment passes on November 4th, on November 5th, nothing happens. Nothing can take place until the General Assembly comes back into session in January of 2015. At that point, our legislators have the potential to pass laws again regarding those things that have been taken away, or any other issue regarding abortion in Tennessee. Currently, the state legislators could pass laws, but we don't think that they would stand up to yet another court case like the one that we had in 2000 that put us in this situation. So they can bring those laws to the table then in 2015. And of course, they would do that at the direction of the people that they serve. It's our job as citizens and voters to have our General Assembly work at our pleasure and create the laws that we want them to create.
So it would be sort of, I hate to use the term a la carte, but each law
would be seen individually.
Okay.
And voted on individually.
Okay. All right. A final word to voters, maybe?
Vote yes on Amendment 1. Yes, there are many things that you need to know. Also in the language in Article 11 concerning the passage of an amendment, it has to pass by 50% plus 1 of the voters who vote in the governor's race. So when you go to vote, you'll see these 4 amendments directly below the governor's election at the top of the ballot. If you skip them, it counts as a no vote. Right. You must vote on the amendments. You know, vote the way you want to vote. I would recommend, if you are pro-life at all, please vote yes on 1. The language is confusing. I read it earlier. But understand that the pro-life position is to vote yes on this amendment, and then we can work in our General Assembly next year.
On the individual laws?
On individual laws,
okay.
One at a time, the way it should be, and the way it is in Tennessee.
As an aside, did you happen to hear about or read the story about the parent who took her infant child to the safe haven?
No,
Nashville?
I did not. I've not heard that.
Yes, and there are probably many parents who are unaware of this law. If you are the parent of an infant who is 72 hours old or younger, you can take that child to a what is defined as a safe haven, which is a fire station or EMT station or hospital, and leave that child there if it is unharmed, and you can do so anonymously without prosecution and without being sought out for any reason.
No questions asked.
That's right, no questions asked.
And the child will be cared for.
That's correct. They will place that child in foster care until it can be adopted out.
Yes.
So that was utilized in East Tennessee. I'm sorry, in East Nashville.
Okay.
And,
oh, that's great.
Yes, and the story was publicized so that people would be aware that
that this is legal.
Yes, that
yes, and your child can be taken care of.
Yes, and some people were a little critical of the media publicizing the story, and I thought, why on earth would you be critical of making people aware that this law exists? Because there were people that actually responded online saying, I did not know that this existed.
They don't know.
So,
that's great.
Yeah, I thought that was very positive.
Absolutely. And that baby will be well taken care of. And oh, what a great story.
The parent actually made probably a very difficult decision.
Absolutely, it is.
And an unselfish
decision.
Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right.